through Friday the 13th. Also, got a good show we're going to talk about tonight, NFL playoffs. And I'm going to ask Carlos message, man, about the Carlos Correa signing with the Twins. I'll ask you about that too. And we'll go over the playoff games tonight. Got a great show this evening, everybody. Stand by. We'll go ahead and get our break out of the way. We'll be back in a minute and 19 seconds here on Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. After 5 years of doing this program once a week, balancing a 60-hour work week job, I've decided to do the program 5 days a week, 1 hour a night, taking a significant pay cut. So I've started a Patreon page, which is Patreon, Patreon/SportsScope, spelled the same way at the bottom of the screen you see there. For $5 a month, 17 cents a day, you can help support the program. You ask yourself, why Sports Scope? Well, I bring in such big names such as Al Borges, former Auburn offensive coordinator, and I cover the big news in sports that the corporate media will not cover. If you want to contribute more than $5 a month, you can go use the Cash App. The cash tag is Sports Scope, again, spelled the same way. Or you can go to the Zelle app, sportscope@gmail.com. SportsScope has about 5,000 followers and growing. If you want to advertise on the program, you can email me. The word is SportsScope, spelled the same way again, @gmail.com. Thank you and enjoy the program. Okay, I'm back live here. Hey, Carlos. Good to see you, man. Happy Friday. Sorry I didn't send you a text on that Carrera, but I knew you probably – I was just thinking about it just last few minutes. I figured you probably knew that whole story and whatnot. Can you explain what happened there? Was he supposed to sign with the Mets in principle?
Yeah, happy Friday, everybody. How you doing, Robert? Thanks for having me on. Yeah, the Mets. All right, let's talk about the Mets. So the Correa was supposed to sign a deal with the Mets, and they did a physical, and the physical wasn't looking good for the amount that they were going to pay him for the 5+ years. It was like a 10-year contract or something like that. And so it was something that they didn't want to go forth and do with his health being the way it is. Now, his health is mostly is just, it's about his ankle. He has a plate in his ankle. They don't know how, with the wear and tear, how well he's going to be, playing plus 3 to 5 years, right? So it wasn't worth the agony and the dismay of going through that with a player of his caliber, not knowing what could happen. And also contractually, a team like the Mets will, of course, try to protect themselves. Yeah. And I don't know this for sure because I don't know what the contract looks like, but it's possible that the insurance wouldn't cover the contract if he were to get hurt even more because he has a pre-existing condition. So those are things that were kind of like brought out as a possibility as well. But, whatever it is, it was a better deal for the Mets and Steve Cohen not to go that route with Correa. Now, that changed the whole, kind of like, perspective of, being a playoff team, right? That's a player that can make a difference. However, the Mets have had an opportunity to take care of that position. They have a few players there already that have skill. They have players in the minors that they can bring up, that they should bring up, and so I think they'll be okay. It's just one of those things that took you from first to back to reality. Like, okay, now it's not going to be as easy as it is with the roster that's stacked, right? So,
yeah. Well, I just think the Twins, the last time I remember them making a big move like this, I mean, like Pickle said, the last I read, it was $200 million, right? Yeah. Versus the 3 that the Mets. So it sounds like you dodged a bullet for one thing,
No, again, the Mets weren't the only team to back away after
the Giants too, right?
the Giants were the first ones. They didn't like the physical. They didn't like the results of the physical. The Mets were pending on the physical. They didn't like the results of physical. I feel like Correa's team and his agent wanted to be in New York. They just couldn't fix the numbers where they felt that they would be able to, take advantage of the situation. So, so I think, and I feel like the team that won was the Minnesota Twins because they're able to keep this guy on the roster. He's an all-star. It gives them a little bit, some kind of identity too. So, they're the biggest winner. The biggest loser would probably be actually Correa, right? Because he went as somebody that can't be trusted. He's already had his name sprayed in the media about saying things about Derek Jeter and his attitude after leaving the Astros and the whole cheating scandal. So it's just more baggage for him and his image. So he's just gotta find a way to move on for that. He's got to be on the field. He's got to play. He's got to stay away from getting injured. And he's a good player, but as you got to put you can't just be paying everybody a lot of money. And I think some of these agents are forgetting that for some of these players. But again, baseball is one of those games where a lot of people who make a lot of money are making money from their past results, not their future results. So
that is true. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on that, but it just reminded me of that Joe Mauer deal when they signed him and they had trouble building the roster around him back in, it's like 2007 or something, when he signed a big deal with Minnesota. That makes me think about that. I understand he still plays there, or he plays there. He don't have to move. So it is what it is. Sounds like you guys dodged a bullet. I wouldn't be down about it. It is simply what it is. Pickle says hello. We got playoff games. Do you have any comments about last week? You shaved a few games off my lead. I finished up 3 instead of up 5.
Techno geeks.
Yeah. News, a Techno Geek was fired, and
he was fired.
Kingsbury. I called that one.
Yep. No, it's those games again.
Now you got me laughing again about the Techno Geeks. Yeah.
These games are not. They're all right. The playoffs is coming, so hopefully these teams step it up. I feel like 3/4 of the NFL team should fire their coaches for the stuff that we've been seeing. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, Pickle says missed big time on TCU. Yeah, I had that one right too. I thought that it'd be around 34-20. I didn't think it'd be 65-7. What's your thoughts on that? TCU,
that shellacking that Georgia pulled off. I mean, they didn't have one quarter where they didn't have double digits. Think about that. And again, now people they say that you have to play the game on the field, that that you can't on paper. Right. You can't do it on paper, but if you look at the stats, TCU should have never been on that field with Georgia. I mean, they rank past the top 20 on all defense, and they rank past the top 20 in all offense. So now they played hard, they stayed in games, they won games, but you can't we talk about it. You can't try to play a whole season like coming back from behind. That's not. It's not easy, and it's not a healthy, way to go about that. So, plus that team didn't have enough depth, like we were talking about. So
they just played a game, a week prior, rather than having a whole month off like they did against Michigan.
Right. So, I think it was bad for TV, and I feel like those guys could actually probably play a better game if they would have given probably a little bit more time to rest, because they're not a deep team. But I still don't think, even with maybe if you gave them 5 more days of rest, I still don't think they would have been able to come out and maybe the score would be just a little bit different. But I think that Georgia's team is so much better than TCU is that it still would have been a bad game, I think. So
as good as Tennessee was playing and the way Georgia shut them down 27-13, made me think that this team is going to win a second national championship. I felt like that's after that game. That's when they convinced me totally that Kirby Smart's going to win that other national championship. Just extremely good defense, very deep. Their quarterback's 25 years old. I mean, he's older than Lamar Jackson, who's been in the league for a few years. So, it is what it is. I'm not sure I'll go as far as some of the ESPN personalities ready to crown Kirby Smart and Georgia above Alabama when Alabama's out recruited in the last few years.
Right.
They just kind of missed the bullet. Now, this championship's coming from the 18-19 class, players that kind of stayed over.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, you got a guy like Stetson Bennett. He's 25 years old. He's on his 10th red shirt or whatever. I don't know what he's playing on, but you put that together, and we also got to take into account that TCU played 7 one-score games. It was eventually going to strike midnight for Cinderella. It's 2:00 in the morning. And, of course, the end of the score was 65-7. Can't take nothing away for that season they had. They did play a really good season. Sonny Dykes deserves all the accolades, and I'm curious of where they're going to go at from here. It was a heck of a season. I think it was unbelievable they even made it this far. Right. Having 7 losses like that last year and having 7 one-score games this year that could have went the other way.
Easily, and we could have seen another kind of team up on playing Georgia, but I still think that other team maybe would have been a little bit more competitive, but they wouldn't have been able to match the depth that Georgia had on that squad.
Yeah,
and listen, they ranked 3rd in recruiting this year now, so they got a 3rd. They did really good trying to fill up. They're going to fill up those spots that they're going to lose players at position wise. I don't know if they're going to repeat, man, to be honest with you.
Yeah. You've got odds for them going 3-peat now. I mean, come on.
And I like what they're doing. I wish that could be at other schools other than Georgia, but Georgia's where it's at right now. But, right now they're taking advantage of the fact that they don't have to recruit using NIL, right? Because they don't even rank in the top 10 with NIL monies.
Well, most of those guys are in-state players.
Yeah, so
Georgia's one of the better fertile grounds for recruiting in the country,
right?
Florida, the state of Florida.
Yeah, and then so Alabama and Georgia are like maybe towards the bottom 20 of the schools with NIL that are actually getting NIL money. They better.
Is there a list for this now?
There's a few lists, and they're all kind of like pending.
Yeah.
Transfer.
I know the Texas schools have deep pockets. I do know that, but I gotta look up this list.
Yeah, they're pending transfer athletes, because if the athlete transfers, then the money doesn't go with the athlete. The money actually has to go back, and the organization can reuse it, but they don't get to. The school doesn't get to keep it. So
okay,
because the NIL goes through it's supposed to go through a third party through the school.
Oh, wow.
As a payment from the school, kind of like you get your loan checks. Remember when you used to line up and get your loan checks? Yeah. So it goes something like that. But a lot of it doesn't get paid up front. Most of it gets paid after you graduate. So it's crazy. It's a lot of underwriting and rules and regulations. And so all these people say, oh, all these kids got all this money. It's like, well, they kind of don't until they get in their hands, right? So,
yeah, part of me think it's a little bit overstated. I think there's only very few select that are getting NIL money right now. It seems like it's a little overstated at this point. Now, maybe this really takes off as time goes on, but either way, it is what it is. Let's start with the playoffs. Like Jim Moore Sr. would say. Let's just go in the order that these games will be played at. Now, San Francisco, they're going to be at home against Seattle. This is the 3rd time these teams are playing. Santa Clara, they've had a lot of rain up there here lately. It's got kind of like this, it's not a nor'easter. I guess it would be a nor'wester or something like that of that nature, where it's getting a lot of rain. It's going to be raining tomorrow afternoon around 1 o'clock Pacific time. 15 to 25 mile per hour winds. Brock Purdy versus Geno Smith. Again, part 3. There's some talk like this is a big spread here at 9.5 for San Francisco. Brock Purdy obviously he's a rookie, and there's some speculation out there. I've heard some of the national media people say that maybe that Kyle Shanahan will pull back on Brock Purdy, and he will. They'll kind of play it safe and just let their defense take over, and this game could be very close within that scoring range, which could potentially set up Seattle for an upset. I don't believe that. I think that Shanahan, from what I've seen the last few games that Purdy has played, he's calling a good game. Now he's calling an aggressive game against good teams like Tampa. Now this is going to be some pretty rough weather. But that being said, I mean, I feel like this is probably a low scoring under type of game. It's like over and under like 40, like 17-6 49ers. What do you think about that game?
Yeah, this game will be ugly, and it could get ugly fast though, because I was talking to Keith earlier today on are you serious? Like, will Shanahan take out McCaffrey in the middle of the game? If they're up. Are other players on the offense, are they healthy enough to stay in the game the whole game? And can Seattle take advantage of Purdy being a quarterback? If they can spook him, this will be a great game, right? But they don't rank high in defense in the NFL.
Yeah.
And they don't really rank high in offense in the NFL. So I think it's going to be a low-scoring game because of the weather to begin with. So, I give Seattle doesn't have a well-balanced team. They just been playing enough to get by.
Yeah.
San Francisco has a better balanced team. Their defense is actually way better than their offense right now because of the fact that their offense is running on a backup quarterback, and we don't really know what to expect from him, even though he's been playing clean sheets and good games. So, but everything points to San Francisco winning this game, and I think it's going to be close too. I don't think it's going to go the route Vegas says it's going, because the one thing is that Seattle has Carroll, and Carroll's a good motivator. They still have players like Metcalf. They got Geno Smith has been
they have some veterans.
Yeah, Geno Smith has been,
and they have nothing to lose. They weren't even supposed to. I thought they'd get the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, exactly.
Much less get the playoffs.
Right. So they got a couple guys there that can keep them focused. But again, like we talk about, it doesn't matter what you got on paper. You got to play it on the field. But this is going to be a game where if anybody's watching, they can see how to attack San Francisco. Right. They can see how good they really are. And if they're ready for the playoffs. So
yeah. So you like San Francisco to win?
Yeah.
Okay. Not going to waste a lot of time. Okay, now the next game is going to be who is playing Saturday night? Let me make sure I'm not getting. Okay, here we go. This is a good one now. Okay, Jacksonville, LA Chargers, Saturday night, 7 o'clock. Just read this afternoon that Mike Williams will be out. He got hurt in the Denver game for the Chargers there. And the Chargers are still 2.5-point favorites. Now, Jacksonville, remember we talked about this game very early in the season, like the second or third week. Jacksonville beat them 38-10. Now, to the audience, let me explain. Justin Herbert had broken ribs in that game. Brandon Staley really pushed, because Herbert's never going to say, I'm not able to play. This guy's very tough. I thought Staley should have pulled him. I know Chase Daniels is not that much better, but him at 100% versus 25-30%. Either way, that makes no never mind. It was 38-10. Jacksonville won. This game was going to be much closer than that. That being said, the offensive line here for the Chargers, it's a little banged up as well. Now, Rashawn Slater's been out. On the flip side, they've got Joey Bosa back for the Chargers. Cam Robertson for the left tackle for the Jags, he's been out for about a couple of weeks now. So, that could kind of give an edge potentially going back to this Charger team. All that being said, I like to talk about, all the good and bad and the ugly. The Chargers played Sunday. They played on the road at Denver. They flew back to LA. Now they're going to go fly back on a short week to Jacksonville. Remember, Jacksonville they beat Tennessee last Saturday night. So I think a guy like a Travis Etienne to this 20th ranked rush defense, that I think you'll have a pretty decent game. And actually, again, the Chargers are favoring this game. I actually like the home team. I think the Jaguars, even though I like Herbert today on Friday the 13th, 2022, I like Herbert better as a starting quarterback overall. I just like Doug Peterson. I like the home field. And I like I slightly like this Jacksonville matchup better. 27-24, Jacksonville gets the win over the LA Chargers. What do you think, man?
Man, the Jags barely beat Tennessee. I mean, Lawrence played a terrible game. Etienne didn't rush for more than 70 yards. The defense is what pretty much kept them in the game and in the loop and where they were able to score off of field goals. I mean, Lawrence has to play a good game, man. He cannot do what he did with Tennessee, or they're not going to win this game. And that kind of falls on the shoulders of also on Peterson. I mentioned this to you, and I people think I'm crazy. They don't think I know about football, but you cannot play we're going to play it by ear and play it minute to minute. Go out there and crush the teams, man. If you got the better hand, you got the upper hand, go ahead and take advantage. And so you play pragmatic like that, and you play very slow, and you're gonna get a team that will catch you, and so they got to be very careful. The Jags have to be very careful if they want to win this game at home. So I think though the keys for the Chargers to win this game is that Eckler, he's got to get 70 plus yards, and they can't be catching. He's got to get them running. Now he could be able to catch, off the run. That's okay, but he's got to get 70 hard yards running plus, because Herbert depends on the long ball.
Yeah.
And he's accurate with the long ball. So, and he can tear up this Jags secondary, but they have to have him set up to do that. Like you mentioned, that O line's a little bit kind of got a little bit of holes in it.
Both O lines are shaky, and both have good pass rushes too.
So it depends on what the weather's going to be like. There's a lot of things.
I mean, the weather's going to be good in Jacksonville. I mean, I didn't see any issues with the weather. Pickles may know the weather.
There's a first
certified weather guy here.
The first playoff for both guys. So I'm thinking Herbert has the advantage right now, being a year older and having a better team around him as far as balance. But don't be surprised if this one goes like 21-17 or something like that. This is gonna be close.
So you like the Chargers?
Yeah, I think the Chargers will win out because I don't believe in the Chargers coach. I don't think he has the guts to go out there and when they can score, he'll probably go ahead and do and kick a field goal just to keep him safe. So that whole Andy Reid mentality, that's not going to work in the playoffs, man. So it's going to be like 45, 50 degrees at night. It's going to be a nice night for full. By the way, I don't know if you noticed, but last week Jags had a really good crowd out there. I can hear it on TV, man. It sounded like the 90s, Mark Brunell days when they were good. I didn't hear them rocking when they were playing well in 2017 like that. Yeah, I was surprised that they came out heavy, bro. I mean, you didn't see too many Titans fans. The only time you saw the Titans fans is when the second half when they were just making all these mistakes.
Yeah, Titans had them beat. But here's the thing. Titans, their run defense is top 5, and they were very healthy defensive line-wise, and Titans were basically coming off a bye with their starters. Remember, Derrick Henry didn't play the week before. I thought Henry would have a good game. I think he had like 107 yards. You could tell their offensive line's bad, though. That was a blessing in disguise for the Titans. I know that people don't want to hear that in Nashville, but they need help on that offensive line. And, now they're picking 11th versus 19th or 20th. They're a little bit closer to getting a higher quality tackle there.
Don't do that. They should sell that pick and get like 5 picks. You can get a good quality tackle in the second or third round.
Man, you sound like Jimmy Johnson over here.
I don't. You don't see what happens is if you get that first round pick, that right now one of the highest rated is probably going to go either third or fourth anyway. So the highest rated tackle that the offensive lineman they
Possibly.
got.
Not
So
the mocks don't have that, but you never know. You never know.
no, I mean he's already mocked up at either 3 or 5. So they're not gonna get him at 11. So that's the guy you want. That's the high rated pick that you want. I forget the kid's name.
There was their guy. You talking about the guy from Northwestern?
Yeah, Northwestern. Yeah. Like that's the guy you want to get. Then you move up for him, or you just get rid of the pick. Don't risk it because you don't. Any guy that you get from the draft is not a guaranteed player for you. Like signing a guy that who's been playing 3 or 4 years or 5 years in the league. He's already got some kind of consistency going. He's already got the NFL. Everything. He doesn't have to. It's not somebody new. So you know what you're going to get from a guy you signed. It's not a guarantee you're going to get something either, but compared to a rookie. So I mean, look at the linemen and some of the defenders that defensive players have gotten before this draft in Tennessee, and they were picking, mid-level to high second rounders. So
and that's if you get that. Sometimes teams don't get an offer at 11. That's kind of an oddball number. It's not in the top 10 or top 5.
Well, there's only 3 quarterbacks that are rated to go in the top 10 anyways.
Yeah.
So if you got that third quarterback lingering, and he's falling at 11.
Well, yeah, that would be an ideal situation for Tennessee. Yes, that's true. Yeah.
So, but don't keep that pick. You gotta use it. You gotta build up depth, and don't waste, because I mean you got you got a lot of problems to fix, man. And the draft should help you. But it shouldn't be another problem.
Okay, so what's the score you got in this game? Going back to the Chargers.
27-24.
Chargers. Okay. Gotcha. All righty then. Okay, now this is a good game here. Honestly, this game right here, Giants, Minnesota. Dude, I've been back and forth on this game all week. Early in the week, I like the Giants. Then later on, I like Minnesota because Minnesota has only lost one game at home this year, and that was a game that they were flat against Dallas because they had that big emotional road game against Buffalo. And the week before that, they had a big emotional road game against Washington. Mm-hmm. They won both games. You took Minnesota both games and ended up beating me. That being said, now I'm looking at the Giants. This is the healthiest they've been all year.
Yeah, but
plus they've got guys like Saquon Barkley, who's, by the way, the Giants rested their starters last week. Like guys like Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones. Barkley had 84 yards rushing against these guys last game. This was around Christmas, I think. 49 yards receiving. He's going to be fresh this time. And I'm looking at guys like Adoree Jackson coming back for the Giants. I've been back and forth. I'll probably lose again. The Giants will probably stick it to me again. But I actually think the Giants flip that 27-24. The Giants win this game. Barkley has a big day on the road. Remember the last time they played a team late in the season off of, by the way, Minnesota, they played their starters into the third quarter against Chicago last week because they were blown out the week before. Brian DeBall is a much better coach than Jeff Saturday. Remember the Colts had them beat bad, and then they came back and beat the Colts because the Colts were basically off a bye week. Well, the Giants are coming off a bye week. Leonard Williams, who's got Thibodeau. I know that their receivers, nobody can name their receivers, Duck Hodges or whatever, Richie James. But I do think, was the other guy, Bellinger. And I understand that Minnesota, there's a lot of ways they can beat you, especially with that tight end they got. The one that they, who is it?
Hawkinson.
Yeah, TJ Hawkinson had like a monster game against them last time. But I like this Wink Martindale guy. The Minnesota's 3-point favorites should be. I'm probably going to regret this, but I do like the Giants to win 27-24. I'm sure you're not going to pick that.
Not me. I want the Giants to win, but I don't feel like they're deep enough to make it. They might be one and done, and if
See,
they
Pickles even likes Minnesota, and I'm probably going to regret that. I'm probably going to regret picking the Giants, but I like Barkley, man. I like Daniel Jones, his rushing ability, and the fact that they're pretty fresh coming in there and healthy.
Yeah, the Giants touched the money though. They offered Barkley and Daniel Jones a contract extension and money on the table before before the season even ended. So, whether they take it or not, that's different. But I mean, you don't even know. You saw what you got out of Daniel Jones this year. You feel confident about that, fine. But you offered him a contract extension. I mean, bro, like this is 1 year that he's actually played good.
Yeah.
Right. And and so he's ranked as a top QB rated, QB right now. But I mean, who else played well this year? Geno Smith. You think he deserves
That's a good point. That's a good point.
So
if you on around the horn, I'd give you a bail for that. That's good stuff right there.
Yeah, beep 3 or 4 points. No, but and like to me, it's like don't gas these guys up because then a game like this comes along and they're gonna show you what they're really made of. I think that Saquon will try to carry this team.
Yeah.
I think the Vikings will allow him to run, actually, because they can shut down the secondary can actually shut down this receiving core because they're not scary,
Yeah.
But that's one of the problems.
And that's their biggest weakness.
Minnesota
secondary is horrible.
Right. So I mean, if they're gonna allow Saquon to run, even if Saquon gets 200 yards. Those don't matter. What matters is when the ball goes in the end zone.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point.
Get this. Every time they're close, what ends up happening is they go 3 and out and they kick a field goal instead of getting that touchdown that they need to get. They don't have a killer. They don't have like that killer guy that Jefferson's. They don't have a Jefferson. You know what I'm saying? So. They're going to be kicking a lot of field goals, and field goals won't win you games, man. They'll keep you in the game, but it won't win you the game.
Yeah.
So, if it's like you live by the 3, you die by the 3, man.
3, yeah.
So it's like, but football's got it too. So they don't got that killer mentality. They don't have enough depth. And even if they give Saquon 200 yards, if they don't score, they don't score, and that's when that's the problem they have. And I feel like this game is probably, I think 30 is too high. But
I feel like he picks the over every week. Yeah, every week is a major shootout. But it's indoors. It might be in the 30s. You never know.
It might be like 24-21 or 24-17. Something.
The fact that the Giants are fresh legs. I mean, maybe they do score touchdowns. So I'm big at those bye weeks, man. It really helps.
So even if they score 3 touchdowns, that's only 21 points, and the Giants haven't ever scored more than that. Until they were actually having to come back to win some of those games.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, what are we expecting the Giants to be a different team now? Come on, man.
Yeah. Well, a lot of those games they did get beat in their defense. They have had major injuries at the secondary, and they've got a lot of those guys back. Like I said, a guy like Adoree Jackson, he's going to help. I think this guy, DeBall, is a very good schemer. Oh, and there's another stat that I read today. They actually outgained Minnesota in yardage last game. That game was a 3-point game. Remember, Minnesota kicked a 60-yarder to win that game.
Right. So I was going to say, but the biggest thing that they couldn't do was keep them from that 3. They didn't get 3 and outs.
Yeah.
Even though they outgained them, Minnesota was deep enough to get those extra yardage to get the first downs. Yeah. So they didn't win in that category. Minnesota won in the first down category, which is why they were able to get that run in to set up that field goal. So
Minnesota's got a lot of weapons. That is true.
A lot of weapons. And that's the problem there with the Giants. I don't know if they'll be able to buffer that, have a buffer for that. So
yeah, we'll find out. You'll probably take the win there. Let's see. Okay, Buffalo. This one's not so interesting. But it's on the slate, right? Mm-hmm. Buffalo, Miami. Yes, Skylar Thompson's going to play again for the Dolphins. The Buffalo's 13.5-point favorites. I want to tell everybody this about the Bills. The Bills were my preseason Super Bowl team Michael Hyde got the guy that DeMar Hamlin replaced. With the tragedy with his the heart attack and everything. But the guy he replaced was Michael Hyde. He's a Pro Bowl level safety, and he got hurt in the week 2 of the Titans game here. He's been back practicing. He's come back from a long IR. He's not going to play in this game. There's a good chance if they make it to the AFC Championship game that he could play in that game. So that is kind of a good thing. The Bills are getting healthy defensively right now. Guys like Tre'Davious White been playing. Jay Crowder, didn't you? You remember him from the Jets back in the day. He actually may have a shot to come back here in the next week or so. But Skylar Thompson's going to be playing for Miami. The Bills are at home, 13.5-point favorites. The Bills probably run roughshod at this by how much? I'm thinking 34-10 Buffalo. What do you think? Miami at Buffalo with Skylar Thompson, a guy who can barely get first downs, playing for the Dolphins.
So the Dolphins have an opportunity to play upset, and I say this because you're gonna win. You're gonna lose 7 games in a row. They're catching a team that's emotional.
That is true. Yeah, they've lost a lot of games. Yeah,
they can flip this if they can control the ball. Now, their defense will play okay, I believe. Listen, is Allen going to run the ball, and is he going to keep it and run over 70 yards? And if he does, maybe that's an opportunity for the Dolphins to catch him and get one good crack at him. Remember, he's still recovering from that shoulder injury. Now it's an elbow issue, but he's going to still be playing, of course. I mean, he might be durable, but he's not no stone wall, man.
Yeah.
And he can't be running the ball like that. He needs to make sure that he gives that ball out and distributes it. So he hasn't learned how to do that. They don't know how to do that yet. And for that, I feel like that's going to be their downfall. And the weather is not going to help him with his accuracy, even though he's not. He doesn't.
I don't think it's going to be crazy this weekend, Sunday.
Yeah, but you never know.
Buffalo,
Yeah, it was Buffalo.
Orchard Park.
So here's the thing, Miami, if they can play mistake free, this will be a better game than it is on paper, on the field than it is on paper. And they can do Miami is one of those teams that can sneak up on you because they have a lot of talent.
Yeah.
They just miss
Raheem Mostert won't play either, by the way. But they still got Jeff Wilson at running back.
They can put Holiday and run the ball, man.
Who? Oh, yeah.
They can run the ball with their wide receivers if they wanted to. I would.
You say Dante Hall?
What?
Who'd you say?
I mean, not Hall, but the other guy. What's his name?
Tyreek Hill?
Hill, yeah.
Dante Hall, he was really fast, too. That's an old school reference right there.
Yeah, they got Hill. He can run the ball. He's ran the ball a few times in Kansas City. They play like some kind of shotgun plays down there. So he knows how to run. Just give him the ball. And if he's not going to get it in the air, you might as well give it to him.
Well, he did beat Joe Flacco. You got that win last week, barely. What a boring game. I predicted that would be a pretty boring game, though.
This is going to be almost probably the same way, too, to be honest with you. So they got a defense that can rise to the occasion. They just got to score points. And that's been a problem because they don't have to they're not doing what they were doing.
It was a very close game last game. Now Tua played. And they did beat Buffalo back in the September, so it's not too far fetched to say.
Yeah, Pickles is right. No, Dolphins, go back to the Wildcat, man. Remember that junk?
The Wildcat, yeah. Okay, this game's going to be more interesting also than people think. Cincinnati. So you do like Buffalo to win, right? Okay.
I mean,
are you picking Miami?
I want to pick an upset, man.
Well, I mean, go ahead, pick Miami. That'll help me out because I may lose that Giants game.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I'll pick Miami.
Really? No, don't. I mean, don't get. I don't. I'm not a charity here. I don't want any charity. I'm not.
I'm not a Buffalo fan. I don't believe in them. You know that I think.
I got you.
They're like.
Don't let me steer you either way.
So I'm okay with picking Miami, to be honest.
All right. Only in Miami, right? Okay, so Cincinnati, will play Baltimore again. This is going to be in Cincinnati. Now, this Tyler Huntley is going to be played. Some guy named Anthony Brown played last week. And I just read this afternoon, guys, doing pickles, that Baltimore rested a lot of starters last week. I didn't realize how many starters they rested. And a lot of those guys are going to come back. Roquan Smith, Mark Andrews, a lot of the offensive guys, including Tyler Huntley, who's been kind of banged up. Now, Huntley's going to be back, the backup guy. And I'll also note that Cincinnati, they have another offensive lineman that's went out, this Alex Kapka, a guard. He's not going to play. Now, I still like Cincinnati to win, but they are 9.5-point favorites. I like Cincinnati defense to keep Huntley in check enough, air quote, enough. And I will say this, last year, Cincinnati still beat up on Baltimore, and they had a worse offensive line. Now, Baltimore had some injuries on defense last year. I think Baltimore makes this interesting. I like Cincinnati, but really close, like a 20-13 game. Bengals. What do you think, man?
Yeah, 24.
You don't think Baltimore may pull off a crazy upset?
I just feel like they're short on the scoring bit, just like the Giants. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Back, yeah. But they score a lot of. They do a lot of field goals, but you got to score points in this league, man. And I don't think that they score enough, and they don't score fast enough. And they put themselves out of position so many times in so many games this year. When they don't have Lamar Jackson, like there was a stat I read just yesterday, something about that Joe Burrow had like 35 touchdowns and Lamar Jackson had 36.
Dang.
And they're like, who.
That's why you got to watch the games. If you just read box scores and so, the Oklahoma City Thunder, they're winning games and Russell Westbrook's getting a triple-double every night. They're going to win the championship. Then you watch the games. A lot of those are empty calories,
Yeah. And that's the problem with Cincinnati is that they don't the eye test makes you feel like they're still not up to par. But at the end, it's the end of the games where they kind of get it together and they're like, I don't believe.
Well, I like the eye test. If you look at their box scores, you think the defense ain't that good, but the eye test, Joe Burrow throws people open. I mean, he's hitting guys.
That's the thing that they have a guy like Joe Burrow to
he can thread the needle.
You kind of reminds me of kind of like, I'm not saying height wise, but like when you have Doug Flutie, you have a chance. Like when he used to come out and you're like, oh, here's Flutie.
Yeah. A friend of mine, a guy that lived here in Nashville with me. We were all three friends. It's like a mutual friend here. His stepdad was from Rochester, and he was telling me while the Titans were playing the Bills in the Music City Miracle game. I went to the game. Long story, but I went to the game. I got tickets, and he was telling me that Rob Johnson was playing quarterback. Remember that? Bills. And my friend Kenny, he's talking to my other friend Kenny. I can't make this stuff up. And he's like, man, I can hear your stepdad in the background hollering, Flutie, Flutie, Flutie. And, I found out later that there was the coaching staff and players wanted Flutie in, but management wanted to put Rob Johnson in. And we know what happened. Yeah. Titans beat Rob Johnson. I mean, it was a Music City Miracle, but if Flutie's there, Titans probably get upset. They were 13-3 that year, But yeah, Flutie, it was like size discrimination or something, because he's such a short player.
They thought he was going to get hit. That's the problem.
Huh?
They thought that he was going to get hit.
Yeah. Yeah. If he was just a little too soon, if he would have came into the NFL now, he may have been better than a Kyler Murray in the right system.
Yeah.
So getting to the better games here. I haven't forgot about that. Oh, by the way, guys, since the game Monday night's going to be at 7, Sports Scope will be at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Monday. I want to get the show done before Tampa Bay and Dallas. I had Jim Jeffcoat in former Dallas Cowboy, and last night. He thinks the Cowboys are going to win. I can understand that. The Cowboys come off a rough game last week. They played really poorly. They usually bounce back. Really good running game. My guess is Pollard will be back for Dallas. Dallas, really good pass rush. That being said, this team has not matched up well against Tampa. Tampa, I think they won like 19-3 in week 1. What I do like about Tampa is the fact that they've got all three of their wide receivers back: Russell Gage, Mike Evans, Godwin. And what I really like is Tristan Wirfs, who's been playing well. He's been on and off injured around Christmas time, a few weeks before that. But he's played these last couple of games. He's played well. Tristan Wirfs, the left tackle. Tom Brady, I know they don't have a running game. Byron Leftwich says, yeah, we're pretty down close to the bottom and run offense. But, hey, that's what we were last year. We played pretty well. They wasn't the greatest running team the year they won the Super Bowl the year before that. So, I can't go against Tampa, man. 2017, close game. Dallas plays better, but I like Tampa to win. 2017 at home. What do you like? What do you think about Dallas and Tampa? A lot of talk about this game.
Yeah, I don't. What's Brady's record against Dallas?
It's 7-0.
Do you think he's going to end his career losing to Dallas?
I mean, he could. Dallas has the horses to do it.
Yeah, they have the horses. The problem is that they're both the horses going opposite directions. That's a problem. So
Dallas on the road, they can screw up a free meal. They lost to Jacksonville. They lost to Green Bay.
Where are they playing this game?
It's in Tampa.
Yeah, what happens when players go to Florida?
Oh, and you know what? Do you know what Jim said last night? He says they don't play well on grass. I think, well, the grass they're playing on grass in Tampa, aren't they?
Look, I put it this way to you, and it happens not just in the NFL, but in the NBA. And
Pickles says maybe Cowboys get a safety at the end and beat the Bucs.
Hey, look, when you're playing all year round, and like Dallas doesn't have to worry because they play in the stadium, in a nice stadium that's covered. But I mean, after all that traveling around, you go to Green Bay, you go different places. It gets cold, it's hot. Then you go to Florida, and Florida feels like a vacation spot, man. You're there, it's mild climate. You're like kind of your mentality changes. You kind of get like into, you're not in vacation mode, but you feel a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah,
because the weather's nice, and I feel like that a lot of players lose focus, man. They, and so they have to be careful they don't get into that whole, idea and mentality where they're like, oh, the weather's nice, we're gonna have a good game, this and that, because it's not. You got to go there and play football and focus on football, man. And it's hard for players in all team, like in all sports, because when they go to Florida, it's almost like, it's almost like the same way when teams from the East Coast go to California. It's like they feel like it's sometimes they play worse,
Yeah.
So
Pickle says it's going to be real. The weather's going to be nice. On Monday night. Yeah.
But no, I mean, as long as it's not a distraction to the away players, and they focus and they go out there and play the game, they got to. I feel, and I think, I don't know if we talked about this. It's like when the other team knows Tom Brady's on the opposite sideline, there's a Tom Brady effect, right? They kind of put him in this whole. He's on this, they put him up on this pedestal, and it's like, we need to make sure we're winning by the time the clock in the third quarter runs out. We don't need to give him time. Like that whole mentality messes up teams and a lot of people that play them.
Yeah.
And they can't go in like that. They just got to go in and be like, we're going to score 45 points. Let's let it rip. And if Dak Prescott throws one more interception, then he's got one more than he needs to. This game is gonna fly.
Yeah, he's got a career. I brought this up to Jim Jeffcoat. He's got 15 interceptions in 12 games. Remember, he missed 4 games.
Yeah, man. So, it's the game is for the Dallas Cowboys to win, but they don't play a good game, And I think now that everybody's healthy, Wirfs is back, Gage is in there. Evans is starting to pick up his mojo. That's not going to be easy for them to go in there and just win. So I feel like Tampa Bay is going to win this game, and Dallas is going to go home. So
Yeah. Dallas is going to go home. Do you think that
If McCarthy gets fired.
you do think it? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Jim says that he don't think McCarthy is going to get fired. He said maybe they may do something with the coordinators there, but he don't think McCarthy. And to his defense, I thought Jason Garrett would get fired years before he got fired. He held on to Jason Garrett for like 8 years.
Yeah, and I think Jerry Jones kind of learned from that, right?
Yeah.
He wants consistency, and he wants there to be like, some kind of like normality going there. But there's nothing normal about playing in Dallas, man. There's nothing, and he doesn't make it. And the coach can't be the only consistent thing there. It has to be management. It has to be, the way that things are set up there. And even if you have, let's say you keep McCarthy, you're probably going to lose more.
You may lose more. Who's that defensive coordinator? Dan Quinn's been interviewing everywhere. Yeah. I brought that up also, Carlos, with Jim Jeffcoat. This guy, Dan Quinn, he's one game above 500. The team perpetually got worse after they lost Kyle Shanahan when they blew that Super Bowl lead back against the Patriots. He had a losing record, 7-9, 7-9, 0-6 fired. That was the last 3 seasons. What's so special about Dan Quinn? Is he doing such a good job? Maybe he's just coordinator material.
He reminds me of is that Jim Schwartz. They just keep giving this guy opportunity after opportunity, and not for nothing. Those two guys, they're great coordinators.
Yeah, of course. He's not the best.
Schwartz is a decent coordinator.
Yeah, but you can always throw on his teams. He's interviewing for the Browns, and I'm thinking, Browns, don't do it. Don't do it.
No, but he puts in the top. He puts in work, and he gets those defenses to top 10.
Sometimes, most of the time.
Most of the time, not all the time.
Pass defense is terrible. He never blitzes at all.
And listen, but those two guys, man, I don't know. Like
everybody likes Jim Schwartz. Golly,
they should just keep him where they're, I don't know. And I said this to Keith earlier. Like Quinn is a guy that seems like he's trying to cherry pick where he wants to go instead of like having an opportunity and just going with it. So even having that mentality is not favorable. Especially since his record right now is kind of like 50-50.
Well, he's one game above 500. I mean, I don't understand what's so hype about a guy who team went downhill 2 straight years. You can blame it on a cap or whatever, but I wasn't impressed with his coaching as a head coach. I think that people get so, particularly these owners, they get so caught up in how good the defense looks at times, and their head defense has looked good at times. That they want to just think that that's going to, maybe this didn't work out, that didn't work out. This guy's a great coach. What am I thinking? Let me go out and get him. He wasn't in the right situation. And then they find out that now this guy's just a coordinator. I mean, I thought that about, remember Wade Phillips?
Wade Phillips.
Defense was really good, man. Really good.
And another guy, Wannstedt.
Dave Wannstedt. Norv Turner used to be the offensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. The guy's a horrible head coach.
It's not even. They're not as successful as they were.
They're like 4-12 bad. Norv Turner's just no personality. Nice guy, but he's not head. Dick LeBeau. Remember Dick LeBeau for the Steelers?
Yeah.
He was awful with Cincinnati. I'm going to tell
you one coach who rest in peace, was very underrated, very not sought out after, but because he stayed in a lot of places longer and actually had Atlanta going the right direction, was Dan Reeves.
Oh, Dan Reeves. Okay.
Very good coach.
I thought you was going to say he was one of those. Sorry.
No.
He went to the Super Bowl with Elway, but they lost.
Very underrated. He took Atlanta to Super Bowl II and lost.
In 97, 98.
Yeah, the Dirty Bird.
And they lost to they did, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he made the Giants a playoff team in his first year.
Playoffs.
Wow.
Yeah, so Pickles. But Pickles likes these guys better than those techno geeks. I don't know if he won't say Cliff Kingsbury. Yeah, that's what I was telling Pickles the other day. You know, I think since Kingsbury's been fired, he is going to start a techno club in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, well,
Uh,
Keith
with
mentioned
his
he might go up to New England.
who's that?
Kingsbury.
Well, right. Yeah, I was talking to
As an
Jim
OC.
Jeffcoat about that. The rumors have been all week. You know, in New England, they've made it official. They're going to air quote look for an offensive coordinator. Now, the rumors have been for the last 4 or 5 weeks that Bill O'Brien, it's his job. But who's the offensive coordinator of Alabama? My thing is that this documentary with Bill Belichick and Nick Saban a few years ago, I saw Saban got really irritated when he was talking about, I know he's hinting at, it was Kirby Smart taking all his assistants over there to Georgia with him. He may be mad at Belichick for going to get Bill O'Brien because I don't think he has a backup for him. So he's going to have to ask permission from his good friend. Is it okay for me to get Bill O'Brien to bring him back up here? That's what I'm thinking. Otherwise, why is there a holdup with Bill O'Brien going back to New England? They obviously need an offensive coordinator, you know. So that's remains to be seen. I know they're going to get somebody. I'm like you. I'd go out there, Cliff Kingsbury. He's probably good offensive coordinator material.
Yeah, coordinator. Yeah.
Yeah, some guys are just, and they're good coordinators. Dick LeBeau, he was in his 80s coaching the Steelers, okay? Got a Super Bowl. He's a great coordinator.
Good motivator, man.
Greg Williams was a really good, he used to coach for the Titans, defense coordinator.
He's one of those guys. Everywhere Williams goes is drama. Everywhere he goes.
Yeah, now, but they blitz and the defense does play well. They get in some trouble sometimes. You get a little bounty gate going, but you know, other than that,
he changed his haircut and grew a mustache.
He does have a wild haircut, doesn't he?
He did that to Coach Tennessee. I was like, "Why? Everybody knows he Greg Williams, man. Why?"
Yeah, he dyed his hair. He was going techno geek, I think, trying to fit in. But I will see you next Friday, everybody. Again. Sports Scope will be an hour early. I know you all want to watch the Dallas game. I want to watch it too on Martin Luther King Day. You remember you got that Mets hat on it. I'll tell you this and I'll let you go. Coming to America scene. Eddie Murphy, he was on TV the other day. He was joking around about Will Smith. Some award show. I think it was the Golden Globes, but there was a scene in Coming to America where he's acting like one of the guys in the barbershop, and they're talking about Martin Luther King. He's like, I know Martin Luther King. I met him in 1962 in Memphis, Tennessee. He walked up and punched me on my chest, knocked me down. I looked up, and I said, you Martin Luther King. He's like, I'm sorry. I thought you was somebody else.
Pass the collection plate. No, pass it.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you see that? I mean, did you see the first one?
Man, yeah, man. It's a classic.
Like 10 times?
Yeah, man.
Same here, man. I tell you. Queen, well, you maybe think about it, Queens, you know, they're looking, let's say, okay, I'm looking for a queen. Let's go to Queens, New York.
You know what else will trick you is Jamaica, New York. Jamaica there's no nice Caribbean island here in New York, man. You've been to
He's
Jamaica.
All happy to get there. Bleep you. Yes. Bleep you too. People are so nice and friendly in Africa. You know, I've met some people on Facebook here, and you go to New York, man, you don't know what, you may get cussed out by your grandmother up there, man.
Yo, the other day I was waiting for this old lady to get on the bus, and the bus driver was like, get on the train, on the bus.
Is that what they did?
I was like, and
that's
then
New York.
I was like, yo, lower the bus a little bit so she can get up. No, I'm
Is that what the bus driver said? Get the bleep on the bus.
On the bus.
What did the old lady say?
At least he was nice enough not to charge her because he just cussed her out. No, you ain't gotta pay. Go grab a seat.
What'd the woman say? Nothing?
She didn't say nothing, man. She probably didn't even speak the language, man, to be honest with
you. Oh man, you cracking me up, Chief. Hey man, you have a good night. I'll see you next week.
Yeah, man. Let's talk. Let's chat, man. These games are gonna be nuts.
Oh, it's gonna be wild. I can't wait, man. Like Bart Scott would say. See you, buddy.
Leave Bart Scott alone, man.
I like Bart Scott.
And get that T. Higgins comment. Then
yeah, people overreacted to that. They overreacted to that. That wasn't, you know, he's a guy gets the bad rap, I think.
No, he's good dude. He's good dude.
Yeah. I'll see